This is the NRCHA's definition of a really good horse. The best trained horse shall be easily guided or controlled with little or no apparent resistance. Bad manners exhibited by the horse will be penalized. All deviations from the exact given pattern must be considered a loss of control and marked down accordingly. Credit shall be given for smoothness, finesse, attitude, quickness, and authority of performing various maneuvers, while using controlled speed, which raises the difficulty level and makes the horse more exciting and pleasing to watch. So how does this affect our spins? We want consistent position 365-degree turns executed with the inside hind quarter remaining stationary. Spin shall be smooth and efficient. The location of the hind quarter shall be fixed at the start of the spin. The horse shall stop the spin exactly as dictated by the pattern description. The right and left spins shall have a similar speed and balance. We use a grading system of -1.5 being extremely poor, -1 very poor, -0.5 poor, 0 correct, +0.5 good, +1 very good, +1.5 is excellent. So all of these factors have to be taken into consideration when we grade every spin. For me, the biggest problem with spins is the lack of the horse moving his shoulders, and that's what most of my corrections try to accomplish, is to get those shoulders moving freely laterally, to really get your horse moving off your leg and staying between the bridle reins. And then I go about trying to develop cadence and style and eye appeal. But if your horse's shoulders aren't moving, the horse is never going to turn around very good. Our first example is a -0.5 spin. The horse starts okay, and then as his head gets to the outside, he loses position. This causes a loss of eye appeal and speed. The horse is not being easily guided. This is another example of a -0.5 maneuver. This horse starts poorly, and because his hindquarters migrate, he loses credit for the well-positioned turn. There's also no smoothness to it. This is an example of a 0 spin. It's an average spin. There's no degree of difficulty, speed, and the cadence is average also. This is another example of a 0 spin. There's no degree of difficulty, the speed is just average, and the cadence is average. This is an example of a +0.5 spin. The spin has good cadence, above average speed, and a lot of eye appeal. Here's another example of a +0.5 spin. The spin starts as a +1, but at the end the horse is dragged around a little bit, loses his cadence. So he went from a +1 to a +0.5 spin. This is an example of a +0.5 spin with a -0.5 penalty for an underspin. This is an example of a +1 spin. The spin has a lot of eye appeal and cadence. There's a lot of degree of difficulty and a high speed.
Another thing that horses do, and they do this through all the maneuvers, but it seems to come out in spinning, and it seems to come out on the cow the most, is what I call hiding. And hiding, I can only equate to something that we can all relate to. If you get in trouble doing something a lot, like say you wanted to learn how to play tennis, and every time you went and you played tennis, you played really poorly, everybody made fun of you, your instructor intimidated you, pretty soon you'd be telling your mom that you really didn't want to go play tennis, you'd really rather go to the beach, okay? You'd be hiding from playing tennis. You'd be making up every possible excuse to not have to go play tennis because it wasn't fun. And we tend to do that to our horses. Not that they really consider, you know, most of this fun, but we can make it either more or less comfortable for them. And if we don't take the time to educate them to what we want them to do, so what I mean by that is I introduce the idea of turning around to my horse. And when he accepts it, and when I use my reins and he turns around, he's told me that he accepts turning around. Only then, after I've shown him how to turn a little, he's accepted how to turn a little, can I then train him how to turn on command, the way I want him to. If I shortcut showing it to him, or I shortcut him accepting it, and I start right away on training him and making him do it, pretty soon he's going to be hiding from it because he doesn't understand it, and I'm putting too much pressure on his little brain, and he hasn't accepted what I'm putting the pressure on him for. Now, let's take it back to that tennis thing. So we play a pretty good game of tennis, and then we go to an instructor who's like really hard on us, and they make us really do it right. We get into it. We're into it because we're getting better at something that we've had a really good foundation laid for. And we know we're getting better and we enjoy it, and so then we look forward to our lessons. But if that kind of pressure was put on us before we learned how to play tennis and learned how to like the game, we'd hide from it. We wouldn't want to go. So you don't want to put pressure on a horse until he's completely accepted what it is you're trying to teach him to do. And if you do that, they will hide. And how they hide from a spin is, if I was to try to turn to the right and he looked to the left, he'd be hiding from that right spin. And if I went ahead and I just drug him around and made him keep spinning and kicked him and kicked him, I would only make it worse. Because he already doesn't want to be there. He's told me he doesn't want to be there. By looking the other way, I'm going to kind of make him do that. But if, you know, and you see it all the time, you see people going like this and they're moving their hand over and their horse is like raising up and they're looking to the left and you're trying to turn right, and then you just go for it anyway and you kind of pull him over here and you start kicking. You're just making that whole thing worse. He doesn't want any part of it. You have to go back when you're at home and you have a horse like that. You have to go back to making that thing okay. And how I do that is I'd put my reins in two hands. I walk a circle. I'm going all the way back to the beginning now because I got to make him like playing tennis. I got to make him want to get better at the game. I'll walk a circle. I'll let him turn a little. I'll walk a circle. I'll let him turn a little. He's not going to get in trouble. He's going to realize that his nose goes right. He follows it. He turns a little. He gets walked right up out of there. He turns a little. Pretty soon, when he feels this rein, he's going to look over there and he's going to turn a little because I haven't made it a really bad thing, okay? I've made it where every time when he feels that rein and he puts his nose there and he turns, that I then let him walk up out of there with no pressure at all, keeping his nose there. And pretty soon, from a standstill, I can lay that rein on him, his nose will go there, and he'll turn around. I've just kind of gone back and filled in those spots. But it's a whole lot easier to never make them hide from something in the first place. It's a whole lot easier to make what you want really easy, really rewarding, and make what you don't want uncomfortable, and don't skip those steps in the first place so that you have to go back and fix them up. Now, if I want a horse to turn around faster than he is, I'll never kick him and spur him in the spin for that speed. The reason that a horse can't turn around any faster than they're turning around is that their shoulder isn't moving and they aren't moving off your leg. So I'll go back and I'll put all that in and then I'll allow them to turn. So if Buck was turning to the left and he's not speeding up any faster than I want him to go, I'll stop spinning, I'll kick him off my right foot, I'll knock his head down, I'll make him work. I'm making him move those shoulders over, I'm making him move off my leg, and then I'll allow him to turn. Oh, I don't ever want to spur or get too aggressive in the actual maneuver, or he'll get to dreading it. He'll start hiding from it. If things don't, same with the lead change. If your horse doesn't get lead changed, I don't make it a big deal. I break down, I fix the part that didn't work. If my horse changes in the front and not in the back, I'll stop him, move his rear end all the way around his front end, then I'll go back and I'll ask him for it again. Okay, rider position in the spin is really important, and that's another thing that we can control in the turnaround and not make the horse have more problems than he already has turning. We want to be sure that we sit up straight, that our shoulders stay square to his shoulders, that we look between his ears. If we get to leaning one way or the other, if my horse is going to spin left and I lean left, then I'm kind of dragging him down into the hole, which I'll show you in a second. If my horse is going to spin left and I lean to the right, that'll cause my outside right leg to maintain a steady contact on him. He's going to then lean into my leg, and he's going to end up spinning on his outside hind hock, and then it's just going to be a slower, more cutting type turn where he's not crossing over because he's leaned out to the outside and rocked back on the outside hock. He can't possibly cross over with the same speed and footwork that a horse that's standing up straight and crossing over can achieve. And the other thing that I already talked about a little bit, if we pull back too much, or if we pull back and when the horse kind of starts his turn we pull back some more, then we cause them to get all bound up. So if I spin my horse and I lean in here, I'm going to just drag him down into the hole. If I sit off to the outside, I just kind of slow him down by making him turn more on his outside hind leg. Plus I get him all nervous. If I just sit up here in the middle and allow him to turn right between my reins and my feet, it'll be a much steppier turnaround. Which leads right into a horse with a sloppy shutoff. When we spin a horse and we want him to stop, we want to just be able to say whoa. At home, if you practice that and you make your horse stop dead when you say whoa, and stop giving him the cues, the leg and the rein to turn, he should stop. Some horses are real sloppy. Sometimes we catch them mid-stride, which isn't fair. If they're halfway here, they got to pretty much finish. But one of the things that I do if my horse doesn't shut off when I ask him to at home, I'll be spinning, hope, I'll just turn him right back around the other way, hope, and then the next time he's usually much more apt to nail that stop. Freezing up in a spin is something that you usually see in a bridle horse, very seldom in a snaffle bit or a hackamore horse because we have two hands and we can lead that nose, we can make sure they turn. Bridle horses freeze up either because they get their head on the wrong side of the bit because they're hiding, like we talked about, or they've just kind of come out of the bridle. They're thinking turn left and the rider's saying turn right, but no matter what it is that happens, it happens because the horse is turned the wrong way from the way he's spinning, and they get up here, they just actually can't turn around. So if that starts to happen to me on a bridle horse, I'll go back to doing what I showed you a little bit earlier where I walk those circles. I get him really comfortable having his nose on the inside of the turn and turning, and having the inside of it, you know, just always, see, he's starting to get where he's looking off to the outside a little bit too. He's anticipating, getting nervous. That's what they do. So I'll just kind of go back to just starting things really soft, really slow, stepping up out of there, kind of taking that anticipation and that nervousness away, making his nose being on the inside a very good, relaxing thing until he kind of gets over that. If I'm showing and a horse freezes up, if I have Rommel reins, I'll let the reins slip through and I'll cheat my reins. That's a 1-point penalty, and it sure beats having a freeze up, which is several more points. So if I start turning and my horse's head is off to the outside, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, he's going to freeze up. I'll let my reins slip like that through my fingers so that my left rein would be the shorter rein by about an inch, which will get his nose started again, and I can probably resurrect that turn at that show. But that's a warning signal that I am going to have to go home and do some work on that. because my horse is getting nervous, he's anticipating, he's hiding, he's not in the bridle, he's, you know, all those things. But that's a warning sign that something bad is starting to happen. If I'm showing a reiner and I have my finger down the middle like that, I'll just crawl up one rein to make it a little bit shorter, to lead that nose through the turn. And then I'll be sure that I get them shaken out before I try to turn the other way with a shorter, with a shorter opposite rein. Almost all of the things that we've gone over now have point deductions attached to them, some of them only in the context of run content. But they're all things that take away from your run and therefore take away from your score. And a half a point here and a half a point there can mean the difference between whether you get a check or even whether you win or not. So it's not that, I mean, I am a perfectionist, I'll be the first to admit it, but the reason why is because all of these things get very, very expensive. So it's really important that our horse starts when we start, that they stop when we stop, that, you know, there's no penalty for your horse starting sloppy except that your turn very seldom recovers. There is a penalty for not getting shut off right smack, you know, on the money there, and it's very expensive. So all those things are really important, and the more that we get to expecting these things from our horse and becoming more of a perfectionist, the more our whole run is going to come together, look better, and just by looking better and smoother and more polished, you're going to increase your run content because the judge is going to be looking for things to like. It's going to be pleasing to the eye, and you're going to get credit for your eye appeal and your degree of difficulty and, you know, all those good things. Finesse is becoming more and more and more important in the reining part of the rein cow horse, and of course always has been in just the straight reining. Okay, so the freeze up. So when the horse turns on its middle or migrates toward a magnet spinning, I found that this exercise can be really helpful. It's also what I use when I very first start turning a horse around. I'll make a turn and a quarter, and as soon as I'm facing the fence, I move them off my rein and leg and side pass. I work their head down. I try to keep them straight because I'm trying to make them move off my leg. That's the whole purpose of doing this. And then I'll allow them to get parallel to the fence going the other way. I'll turn, a turn and a quarter, stop right there. See how he moved into my leg? He was fixing to move into it when I was doing my spin. That's what they do. So I want him to move off my leg. I want him to stay in the bridle. And then I'll come back here, be parallel to the fence. As soon as I can do 1 1/4, then I can do 2 1/4. And right there, I'll knock his head down. It can move off my leg and side pass along the fence. Then I'll walk back parallel to the fence. Come around, and right there, catch him, and side pass. It seems like the fence comes up just in the nick of time when you really do need to be moving them off your leg and rein. So it makes you have a visual spot where you're always going to catch them and move them off. It takes all the guesswork out. And then when I can do 2 1/2 or 2 1/4, then I can do 3 or 4 or 5. Wherever it is that he starts to lag, like right there, I'll just catch him and make him move off my rein and leg and stay in the bridle. And then I'll turn him again, and as soon as he starts to lag and I need to work at my turn a little bit, instead of doing it in the turn, I'll stop and take him away from the turn and do all the bad stuff to him away from the turn so that when I let him turn, I'm allowing him to turn. That's the good thing. The turn is the good thing. So he wants to go into it. He wants to go into it. See how he goes into it nice and relaxed. He's kind of hunting that turn. The turn is his relief from all the moving off the leg, bumping the head down, all the things that I'm doing where I'm schooling on him. Then I'm allowing him to turn, and that makes him want to turn. We want him hunting those turns. When he feels those signals, we want him going, ah, yeah, the turn. I get to spin. She'll leave me alone. Terrific. Okay?